What started as a simple piece of leather for a cleric's talisman quickly turned into a source of terrifying disturbances. When this leather arrived at a shop, strange and horrifying events began to unfold. How an ordinary piece of leather became a cause of fear. 1992. An incident in the Rajbari sub-district. The person, due to personal reasons, has asked not to be named, so we will not mention his name. In the heart of the Rajbari sub-district, there is a large market. In the middle of that market, he has a small grocery store. Every morning he opens his shop, works throughout the day, and returns home at night. His home is a little inside from the market, located about 1.5 to 2 kilometers away in the village of Laxmikul. The village is peaceful and quiet, surrounded by greenery. As night falls, a kind of sweet, silent stillness descends on the village roads. He would usually close the shop around 9 p.m. It would take him a little past 10 to wrap up everything and bid farewell to his employees. All the employees at the shop lived in Laxmikul village. They would all leave the shop together, with a few of them heading to their homes, while 1 or 2 employees would accompany him to his house before returning to their own homes. This was their daily routine. This incident took place in the month of April, during the severe thunderstorm. In the late afternoon of that day, a man with a strange appearance came to his shop. He said, "Brother, many people come to your grocery store specifically for talismanic items. I have something here. It would be good if you could keep it. You can sell it and give me the money, or you can buy it from me. In fact, those who write talismans or are involved in this profession need various items for their work, such as thin paper, saffron ink, dry leather, etc." At that time, he noticed that the man who had come to his shop was carrying dry leather. He asked, "What kind of leather is this?" The man replied, "This is dry goat leather." The shopkeeper then examined the leather and found it very smooth and beautiful. It didn't seem like goat leather at all. Still, the leather was so beautiful that he liked it. He said, "All right, since such leather is rarely bought, you can leave it here. Come back in a week, and if it sells, I will give you the money." The man agreed immediately, without any objections or arguments. The shopkeeper was very surprised. He thought, "I mentioned it, and he agreed immediately. Something seems off." That evening, a fierce storm hit Rajbari town, with thunder roaring in the sky. Since it was April, and severe thunderstorms usually occur more in the afternoon and evening, the storm caused many electric poles to collapse in Rajbari district. Rajbari's electricity was connected to Faridpur district, and due to many poles collapsing there as well, the power was cut off. As a result, the entire Rajbari district experienced a power outage. As usual, he set out to go home at night. Lightning flashed in the sky, and there was light rain. Seeing the rain, he told his employees, "You don't have to go through the trouble of escorting me home in this rain. There's no need for you to come to my house. It will be difficult for you to return later. Go home now." The employees bid him farewell and set off for their homes. He started walking by himself. His house was spread over a large area. There was a big pond beside the house. There were several old Rajbari houses in Laxmikul village. The name of Laxmikul village is associated with King Surya Kumar, who had built an old Rajbari. The word Raj means king and Bari means house. Together, Rajbari translates to the king's house. The Rajbari was surrounded by large ponds, which have many spooky stories associated with them. Those will be shared another time. After crossing the ponds, he had to go further into his house. He was walking down the road, holding a 5-battery flashlight. At that time, there were no rechargeable lights. Before reaching his house, he came across one of King Surya Kumar's ponds by the side of the road. As he was heading towards his house, the pond came into view. He noticed that fish had come up from the pond onto the road. In rural areas, various types of fish sometimes surface due to water currents. He saw that many large-sized catfish had come up. He tried to turn on the flashlight, but even though all the batteries were charged, The light wouldn't turn on. He thought, "Why isn't the light working? Something must be wrong." Then, not focusing on the light, he turned his attention to the fish. He thought, "There are many large fish here, and I have a bag with me." He began collecting the fish and putting them into the bag. He managed to gather about 10 to 12 fish and then set off towards his house. Upon arriving home, he handed the bag of fish to his wife and said, "Take these fish to the kitchen and, if possible, cook them right away." After giving the bag to his wife, he went into his room to change his wet clothes from the rain. Suddenly, he heard a loud scream from the kitchen. The other family members rushed to the kitchen and found his wife unconscious, and the bag of fish was empty. The family members tried various methods, including splashing water, to revive his wife. Once she regained consciousness, they asked her, "What happened?" The wife said, "When I brought the bag of fish into the kitchen and reached in to take out a fish, it suddenly felt like someone was gripping my hand. I thought maybe a fish had bitten me. When I opened the bag, there were no fish inside. Instead, there were severed hands of small children from fingers to elbows, about 10 to 15 hands." The wife said, "When I reached into the bag, it felt as if someone was gripping my hand. Seeing this, I screamed and immediately lost consciousness. That's all I remember, nothing more. There were no fish at all." The family members told the shopkeeper, "You shouldn't bring fish like this at night. Something so terrifying can happen when you bring fish in this manner." The shopkeeper thought, "It seems like it's all over now." But in reality, this was just the beginning. The next day, after placing the leather in the shop, the sales at his store dropped unusually. Regular customers began buying from other shops, and for some reason, no one was coming to his store. He became very surprised and worried, thinking, "Why isn't anyone coming to my shop? Everything was fine until now. Why has everyone suddenly moved away?" Observing the situation, he was filled with suspicion. He started wondering, "What happened in my shop that is causing everyone to avoid me?" On the second night, as he was returning home, his employees escorted him to his house. Due to the previous day's incident, they had accompanied him all the way home. When he opened the tin gate of his house, he saw 15-20 children playing in the yard. Strangely, these children had unusually large, flattened heads. The sky was overcast, and there was no moonlight, but lightning was flashing. In the light of the lightning, he saw that the children's faces were very strange. Their eyes were also very large. Seeing this, he felt scared and thought, "I have never seen such children in my village." He asked, "Who are you all?" When he asked this question, the 15-20 children quickly ran and jumped over a 5 to 6 foot high fence, disappearing into the dark forest. He thought, "Where did they go?" Seeing this, he became very scared. He immediately grabbed a flashlight and ventured into the forest. He carefully searched the forest with the flashlight but found nothing. He wondered, where could these children have disappeared to so quickly? Yesterday's incident and now this. He thought, maybe a few children could have come to the house. Upon returning home, he asked his wife and other family members, "There were many children playing here. Did you see anything?" However, everyone said, "No, we didn't see anything. If something had happened, we would have noticed. It must have been a mistake in your mind." But he knew that what he had seen was not a mistake. What had happened in front of his eyes was indeed real. The following next day, a new disturbance began. At night, when everyone was asleep, around 1 or 2 a.m., a thudding sound started coming from the tin roof of his room. It sounded like someone was moving from one side to the other. There are many kinds of animals in rural areas, so they thought perhaps an animal was making the noise. However, the intensity of the sound was 5 to 6 times greater than what would be expected from an animal. After observing for 1 to 2 days, they decided that when the noise occurred, they would go outside to see what was happening. On the third night of observation, when they heard the noise, 3 to 4 family members ran outside and turned on a flashlight. They saw a small child running from one side of the tin roof to the other. Seeing this, everyone realized that what was happening in their house was not normal. It wasn't a mere coincidence either. This incident was occurring regularly, and there was definitely a reason behind it. But no one could understand what it was. One day, a cleric came to his shop and asked, "Do you have any dry leather? I need it for writing amulets." He thought, "Finally, after so long, a customer has come." He replied, "Yes, I have some. It's very good leather." He then handed the leather to the cleric. The cleric examined the leather for a while and asked, "What kind of leather is this?" He answered, "It's goat leather, dry goat leather." The cleric said, "Goat leather. I have written amulets on many goat leathers before, but I have never seen such beautiful, smooth goat leather. Anyway, you've provided it, and it's very good. I'll take it." He bought the leather at the price mentioned, as the cleric was very pleased with it. However, the next morning the cleric returned to the shop in a hurry. He said, "All right, tell me honestly, where did you get this leather from?" He asked, "Why? Why do you need to know?" The cleric said, "No, you must tell me. I had a terrifying experience with it." He asked, "What happened?" The cleric replied, "When I started writing the amulets on that leather at night, I felt like someone was running around me. It sounded like the running of small children. I thought that since I write amulets and often deal with jinns or ghosts, perhaps a mischievous jinn was bothering me. So, I recited a prayer and blew on it. But as I continued writing the amulets, I suddenly felt a sharp biting sensation on my neck. It was so intense that I couldn't bear the pain and fainted." Later, when the cleric woke up, he saw the mark in the mirror. Other family members also saw the mark. It looked exactly like the bite mark of a small child with tiny teeth impressions. This was why the cleric had returned in a hurry. He said, "I've never experienced anything like this before. Why did such an incident happen to me after I took your leather? Honestly, tell me where you got this leather from." The shopkeeper then revealed everything to the cleric. "A man came and left this leather with me. I don't know anything beyond that. But since I kept the leather, similar incidents have been happening to my family as well." The cleric then said, "You should remove these leathers from your shop immediately and throw them into the river. The Padma River is about 1 to 1.5 kilometers away from Rajbari city." The shopkeeper followed the cleric's advice and quickly went to the Padma River to dispose of the leather. After that, the strange noises on the rice and other paranormal disturbances in his house stopped. He thought, "Finally, the trouble is over." A week later, when he was returning home at night, he suddenly saw a person standing near the gate, completely covered in a sheet. He asked, "Who is it?" Without responding, the person abruptly ran off into the forest. The area was dense with jungle, thickets, and had no visible exit. The person disappeared into the dark forest. He was worried and thought, "Who could this be? Is a new problem starting again?" Realizing the need for safety, he advised his employees to accompany him inside the house every day. From then on, his employees would take him inside the gate and then leave. The next incident happened when, after crossing the gate and entering the house, he suddenly noticed someone sitting near the door. He was startled to see that the person was none other than the one in the sheet. He approached and asked, "Who are you?" In an instant, the person leaped over the gate and ran away, just like the children had done before. Seeing this, he realized that these were not normal occurrences. They were, in fact, something supernatural. Such incidents continued to happen frequently. His family members also noticed that someone seemed to be roaming around their house at night. One day, the shopkeeper decided that he needed to resolve this issue. He thought to himself that this situation couldn't go on any longer. Perhaps it is some man who has started a new mischief with him. One night, after attending a dinner and returning home late, he saw a person in a sheet standing by the roadside. He approached the figure and asked, "Who are you?" This time, the person in the sheet did not run away. Instead, he slowly approached and removed the sheet from his head. The shopkeeper then realized that this person was none other than the one who had left the leather at his shop. After the person in the sheet removed it, he screamed at the shopkeeper, "Give me back my leather!" The shopkeeper, surprised, replied, "I already threw the leather away." The man, enraged, said, "Why did you throw it? You must return my leather." The shopkeeper repeated, "It's impossible. I disposed of the leather in the river." The man threatened, "You will suffer greatly." And with that, he suddenly vanished. The shopkeeper had 3 sons and 2 daughters. That night, one of his children died in his sleep, with no visible injuries or marks on the body. From the next day, although the shopkeeper did not see the man in the sheet or the strangely shaped children directly, he continued to have vague dreams about them. These disturbances still occur with him.